Hello BookTube and welcome to the continuation of my 2020 library tour. Today is the second day of History Week. We're on the second shelf of the history shelves. So let's get started. First is A History of the Weimar Republic by Erich Eyck. It's subtitled From the Collapse of the Empire to Hindenburg's Election. So this is volume 1. I picked this up a few years ago. I don't know if I picked it up either from the library at St. Edward's University. They'll sometimes do, when I was there about once a year, they'd clear their like withdrawal books or just collect books, and I think they sold them. Or if this came from Friends of the Library book sale. Haven't gotten around to it yet. Really should, though. Next is The Economy of the Greek Cities, from the Archaic Period to the Earlier Roman Empire, by Leopold Migio, translated by Janet Lloyd. I want to say this was rather interesting. So yeah, it's been a while. Again, really interested in world building, which is why I have that. Next is Streams of Gold, Rivers of Blood. The Rise and Fall of Byzantium, 955 AD to the First Crusade, by Anthony Caldelas. I picked this up just recently from Powell's in Portland. This is, I think, the first book I actually bought from Powell's. So I'm quite happy to have it and looking forward to getting around to it in the new year. Next is Maoism, A Global History by Julia Lovell. I talked about this book late in November. When I read it for Nonfiction November, it's the history of Maoism from China and beyond. And it is amazing, just absolutely amazing. Love the book. Iran, A Modern History by Abbas Amanat. So I had intended to read this book for Nonfiction November as well, but I ended up bailing on it. But as you can see by the bookmark, I'm not done with this book yet. I'm going to have another go at it sometime in the new year. And I will finish it this time. You can guarantee it. Bloodlands Europe Between Hitler and Stalin by Timothy Snyder. The Kingdom of the Hittites by Trevor Bryce. Very happy to have this in my collection. I am obsessed with the Hittites and really wish there would be a new soup to nuts narrative history. But I doubt very seriously if that's in the offing. But this is a really good book. I also want to pick up his Life and Society in the Hittite World as well. And so maybe sometime next year. But this is really good. Another really good book is Wild Sea, A History of the Southern Ocean by Joy McCann. This looks at the history of the Southern Ocean from all sorts of angles, and it is an amazing book, just absolutely amazing. China's Cosmopolitan Empire, The Tang Dynasty, by Mark Edward Lewis. This book is really good as well. I've been really interested in Chinese history the past few years, and I'm quite happy to have this book in my collection. And I picked this one up from Powell's when Powell's had a storefront or an affiliation with Alibris, because I picked this up from Alibris, but it seems to have come from Powell's too, of Burnside, which I think is the main Powell's, the big city block size store is. Queer History of the United States by Michael Pronsky. This is a really fascinating and very well done history of queer life in the United States, and really puts me in the mood to want more and more depth in hunting down and reading queer history, particularly in the United States. Next is Australia, A New History of the Great Southern Land by Frank Walsh. This book is amazing. I read this a few years ago when I checked it out from the library, big hardcover, and looking forward to having another go at it. Excuse me. November 1918, The German Revolution by Robert Gerwarth. I'm currently in the process of reading this book. It's about the German Revolution at the end of the First World War and sort of the events leading up to it, and a few years into the revolution itself. It's from 1917 to 1923. So far, it's really good. And then we have Thebes, The Forgotten City of Ancient Greece by Paul Cartledge. It's a history of the ancient Greek city Thebes. I really liked the first part of this book up until the Peloponnesian War, at which point Thebes kind of receded and basically the standard bits of classical Greek history sort of reinforced itself. The Peloponnesian War, really Athens and Sparta going at it, and of course the rise of Macedonia and Alexander's eventual destruction of Thebes. But I'm going to give this book another go at some point. A brief history of the Caribbean from the Arawak and the Carib to the present by Jan Rogozinski. I read this last year for Nonfiction November and didn't particularly care for it. I thought the writing is very pedestrian, and it just wasn't the history of the Caribbean I want. St. Andrews University, A Centennial History by William Dunn, CSC. This is a history of my alma mater, St. Andrews University in Austin, Texas. Basically, new students get a copy of this book, and it's also, well, when I was there, available in the university bookstore. But anyway, I'm not entirely sure why they gave it to us, though, because it's not like we actually read it during orientation or anything like that, but they just gave us the book for free. Anyway, so let's wrap this up. Sea People, The Puzzle of Polynesia by Christina Thompson. This book was up for the Booktube Prize this year. Really good. Very glad the Booktube Prize introduced it to me, even though I had thought about checking it out last year from the library, but it wasn't quite what I was wanting. I was hoping for something else, but actually having read it for the Booktube Prize, I just love this book. It is amazing. It's about the history of the study of Polynesia and sort of Polynesia in the 20th century. Really, really good. The Rising Sun, The Decline and Fall of the Japanese Empire, 1936 to 1945, Volume 2 by John Toland. Picked this up from, I want to say, either the Friends of the Library book sale in Waco or from St. Andrews University. One of the two. Really need to have a go at it. Culture in the Third Reich by Moritz Vollmer. This is an amazing look at culture in the Third Reich, and it's just really, really amazing. I loved this book. And finally, for this shelf, A Modern History of Japan from Tokugawa Times to the Present by Andrew Gordon. I really want some more Japanese history in my collection, and I've had some difficulty finding really good or any narrative histories of Japan, and I'm going to make a commitment to redoubling my efforts and finding more books on Japanese history, as well as Chinese history too. So that was shelf 2 of the history shelves. This will be my only video today. There's a few things I need to do, so I'll do that while I'm uploading this video. I was intending on uploading a original tag yesterday, but I got interrupted during filming, so I didn't return to it because I'm honestly not very happy with the tag in the question. So I'm going to set that aside and come back to it after a while, and I think I'm going to refocus on the Agatha Christie tag I'm working on. So hopefully I'll have that up either sometime later this week or next week. So new booktube, I'll see you tomorrow with shelf 3 of History Week, and also maybe a writing video. I don't know for sure, but hopefully I'll be able to get 2 videos in tomorrow. So until then, booktube, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.